Hey everyone, it's Chris. I'm here to do a video that I've wanted to do for a while. It's my A through Z of LGBTQ books plus a little bit because I did some plus ones on a couple of days. But yeah, this is a video that the first one was by George Lester and it's fantastic. And also people who have done it, Perpetual Pages, The Boy Who Cried Books, and Peter Likes Books. I've watched all their videos and enjoyed them all so much. Go check out their videos because they're awesome. And yeah, I'm really excited to do this finally because I have so many queer book recommendations and most of the things on my list are not repeated on the other list somehow, some way. I don't know how that happened. Yeah, so definitely go check out their videos. Watch this one. Hope you enjoy all these queer recommendations. A is for Eli, Jesse, and Robin's Guide to Asexuality. Now, our books that focus on asexual characters. This book is about 3 teenager friends who are all asexual. Really enjoyed this book a lot. Becoming Chloe by Katherine Hyde. This is a road trip story about 2 homeless teenagers, Chloe and Jordy. Jordy is a gay male, and he meets Chloe at the beginning of the book. They're both homeless. And Chloe's been through some very traumatic experiences. You see that right off the bat. And she is thinking of ending her life, I believe. And then they go on this road trip together so Jordy can try to help her find the beauty in the world because she just feels like the world's an ugly place. And this book was so good. C is for the Cradle by J. Bell. It's the first book of the Local Legends series, which is like a fantasy queer series. The main character is Dylan is gay. He's closeted in this book. And you get to see him kind of struggle with that while also trying to survive because there's someone out hunting the leaders of the world essentially, and he's the son of one. So that's kind of the plot of this book. I really like it so far. I am actually at the point of reading this. I still have about 60 pages left, but I want to go ahead and throw it in here. Desert Sons by Mark Kendrick. Haven't read this book yet, but I've been recommended it by multiple people. It's a contemporary queer romance book, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of drama from what I've read on the back. So yeah, I'm really excited to get to this. The Evolution of Ethan Poe by Reardon. This book is about a guy named Ethan Poe who is closeted in a very conservative town. His best friend's very religious, really religious. His family's pretty religious. And he's very, not interested in coming out because he just doesn't want to hassle for it. It's about him going through kind of his first secret relationship and also dealing with a big debate that's going on in town about teaching evolution in the schools. And there's also a side character who has body dysmorphic disorder, which was something I had not seen in a book up until that point. I really like this book a lot. No book for F, so we're going to go with the Wildcard, and that's going to be Misfits by Garrett, Leigh. This is a book about these 3 guys who end up in a relationship together, so it's about a polyamorous relationship. It starts off with a couple who's in an open relationship, and I really love the way that they portrayed that open relationship in the book. The 3rd character who they meet has Tourette syndrome. I hadn't seen a book with a character with Tourette syndrome in it, at least not an adult character with Tourette syndrome, so I thought that was really interesting. It's definitely my favorite book that I've read with polyamorous relationships in it. G is for The God Box by Alex Sanchez. I haven't read this book yet. It deals with a religious town, a very religious character who meets someone who is both gay and also claims to be religious, and he doesn't think that's a possibility up until that point, and he had been suppressing some things about himself up until that point because of his religion. And yeah, I want to read this. H, How Not to Summon Your True Love by Sasha Miller. I loved this little story. It's about an asexual main character who, at the beginning of the book, finds out that he has some magical abilities somehow, and he accidentally summons someone across the country, and now they have to go on a road trip to get that person back to where they belong. And it's a queer road trip story, and there's a little bit of magic, and I really love it a lot. We don't have one for I, so the Wildcard is The House You Pass Along the Way by Jaqueline Woodson. This is a story about a young queer black girl in the South and trying to come to terms with her sexuality and just also dealing with her life the way it is, which I thought it was very interesting backing what we learn about her life and kind of her grandparents, Civil War martyrs, essentially. It was really interesting. Definitely makes me want to read more Jaqueline Woodson down the line. Totally Joe by James Howe is a middle grade book. This is a book about a kid named Joe who is gay. It's his alpha biography, so it just goes from A to Z where you learn about this kid's life. And I really enjoyed this book, and I read it so very quickly because it was just so entertaining. I just blazed right through it. K is Everything Begins and Ends at the Kentucky Club by Benjamin Alire Saenz. Most people have read Arso Andante by Benjamin Alire Saenz and haven't read anything else by him. This is a collection of short stories by him that all center around the same location. Honestly, they felt very connected even when they were in completely different time periods. And some of them focused on queer characters, some of them focused on not queer characters. All of them written really brilliantly. Definitely something people should check out. Ella is going to be a webcomic and is the less than epic adventures of TJ and Amal. This story is so much fun. It's a road trip story. Essentially, Amal comes out to his whole family on the first page of this comic and his girlfriend slash fiance, and that ends that. And then the next morning when he wakes up from a night of drinking, The next morning when he wakes up from a night of drinking, there's a guy in his apartment named TJ, and TJ claims that Amal and him are supposed to drive to Rhode Island together. It's fantastic. Just go check it out. M is for Mysterious Skin by Scott Helm. It's also a movie directed by Greg Araki. I recommend both. It's about these two guys who experience the same childhood trauma, and then how differently they grew up and how differently that trauma affected them, and their journey to meeting up again after having experienced that. Really, really brilliant. I'd recommend the movie or the book. The movie has Joseph Gordon-Levitt in it as the main character. Just to throw that out there. And it's a wild card again. And this time I'm going to use a comic book, and it is The Pride by Joe Glass and Gavin Mitchell, I believe. And this is about a team of all queer superheroes. I've only read the first 2 issues, so I've seen the team form and kind of the reason behind forming. And I'm going to be reading the 3rd issue pretty soon. I really, really like this comic book series so far. O is for The Other Side of Paradise by StacyAnn is her memoir. She's a feminist, activist, poet. You guys should definitely go check out some of her poetry on YouTube. Like, I know she has some things posted up you guys can check out. But her memoirs was just really, really interesting to me, learning about her experience growing up and being queer and how she became a feminist as well. It was a very interesting memoir. I think I gave my copy to my sister after I got it signed, because I thought it'd be something that would be really good for her. Definitely something that I recommend to people to try out. Go check out her poetry. P is for Pole Dancing to Gospel Hymns by Andrea Gibson. It's a collection of Andrea Gibson's poems. Andrea has a lot of different collections, but this is probably one of my favorite collections of poems. Some of my favorites are on it. And Andrea is a queer spoken word poet. If you don't know who Andrea Gibson is, you need to go listen to Andrea Gibson. I'm going to put links to some Andrea Gibson poems down below if I remember to, because you guys should go check out Andrea. She's fantastic. I did not find a book for Q, so I have Here's to You, Zep Pike by Joanna Parkhurst. Haven't read this book yet, but I'm very excited to. It's about a gay kid who is taking care of his siblings in one town, but then child services find out and they end up sending them to live with their aunt and uncle, and he doesn't adjust well to the new town. There's people bullying him, and there's someone that he has a crush on who he thinks is straight. It seems really interesting. I met the author and she was fantastic. She was just so nice, and we just talked about writing and things like that. And so I'm really excited to read this. R is for Redefining Realness, My Path to Womanhood, Identity, Love, and So Much More by Janet Mock. This is Janet Mock's memoir. Janet Mock is a trans woman of color who is a big writer for a lot of different magazines. She was the editor at People and a lot of things like that. And reading about her experience was absolutely amazing. It's one of my favorite memoirs that I've read for sure. S is for Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda, because this book is so cute and it's so adorable, and I'm about to explain what it's about, and it's not going to sound that adorable. It's about Simon, who's in a secret relationship with a guy named Blue. He doesn't actually know who Blue is, but Blue goes to his school, and someone finds out about the secret relationship, sees the emails, and then tries to blackmail Simon. This book, you guys, it always makes me want to eat Oreos, and it's really cute, so go check it out. T is for Beta Test by Annabeth Albert. I really loved this book so much. It's another road trip book, guys. You can see the pattern of road trip books that are queer in me. I really like them. This one deals with an interracial relationship forming between these two colleagues at a gaming company who are very different. They are always at each other's throat, but then they are forced to go on this road trip together to present about their new upcoming game at a conference, and they start to bond and see things that are similar about each other, and it was sweet. It was well done. I thought the relationship was really well done. I liked the culture brought in on Ravi's half of the book, because Ravi and Tristan, these are like geeky romance novels. U is for Arso Andante Discovery Secrets of the Universe one of my favorite books that I wish I had discovered a little bit earlier. Like, I didn't discover this until BookTube, and I picked it up and read it and thought it was just really fantastic. It's about these two young kids of color, and this is about two young queer kids of color, essentially. And it's about their developing a friendship that eventually goes into a romance, and it's about, and it really involves family, and the families are really well done, actually involved in the story, and I really, really like this book a lot. V is going to be Recognized, The Voices of Bisexual Men, which is an anthology created by Robin Oakes and Sheriff Williams. There's another anthology like this for bisexual women, I believe, and there's also like a bisexual women's magazine that Robin Oakes runs, and this anthology, you guys, so interesting, reading about all these different stories, sometimes very frustrating reading about some of the experiences these people go to, but very eye-opening for me, and I really recommend this book. Thought it was just fantastic. Go check it out. What They Always Tell Us by Martin Wilson. This is a book about two brothers who have drifted apart. One of the brothers happens to be queer, and I've only read the first couple chapters of this book, and then I realized I wasn't really in the mood for this type of book at that moment. So, but I'm really excited to read this book when I do get back to it. And I know the queer character does have his like first romance in this book. I don't know if it's going to deal with him coming out and things like that, or if he's already out. Didn't get that far, but excited to read it. Because I didn't actually finish them, I'm going to do a +1 for a book that I did finish that has queer characters in it, and that is Wicked by Clover Donovan. I really just want to show this because it's like the prettiest cover ever. Also, this book is about twin witches, which I love twin witches. That's like a thing. Twins and witches and magic. It just makes me happy. Also, one of the queer twins is a gay male, and I really liked how it wasn't really a big deal in the story at all. It just makes me happy. That always makes me happy. And because there was so much more things to be worried about in this book than that, and relationships, and so, yeah. I like this a lot. The twins are being hunted because for their magic, essentially. Really good book. Check it out. X is going to be a wild card because that wasn't happening. And I'm going to go with The Before Now and After Then by Peter Mon. Peter is a booktuber. His channel is Peter Likes Books. I'm going to put a link down to his channel down below so you guys go check him out. I'm really excited to read this book. I heard him talk about it on the channel a little bit, and I was like, I'm buying it. So I have it on my Kindle, and I am ready to read it. Is for the Young Protectors by Alex Wolfson. This is a webcomic that I absolutely adore, and it's still ongoing, so I'm not done with it. It follows a character named Red Hot, aka Kyle. He is a closeted queer superhero who starts a relationship with a supervillain. Oh no. Yeah, this team is super diverse. Kyle's not the only queer member on the team, we find out, and there's like 3 or 4 people of color on the team. It's led by a female. Like the majority of the team is people of color or queer, and I really, really love that about the series. The second queer character gets his own bonus comic, which I almost put on here as its own thing because that bonus comic was so good by itself. Absolutely love Alex Wolfson's like writing, planning, everything he does with this series. It's so good. Definitely go check it out. I'm going to put a link to the webcomic, the first page of it, down below. Last but certainly not least is a wild card for Z, and that is Realm of Possibility by David Levithan. I have 2 copies of this, which might show you how I feel about this book. A lot of people don't recommend this book by David Levithan. A lot of people haven't read this book by David Levithan. This was my first David Levithan book. I read Boy Meets Boy after it. And it was the first time I encountered queer characters in a book that had such interesting writing. Essentially, it's 20 perspectives. You only get a character's perspective once. And they're all stories are all connected, and I really liked studying kind of those connections and seeing how things connected as I read it the first time, the second time, the third time, and after. The book starts off with Daniel and ends with Jed. They are boyfriends, so it starts off and ends off with the boyfriends, and they're connected stories in a way, and their stories aren't necessarily that connected that they talk about in their little experience, but it's really, really interesting. One of the other interesting queer sections is Diana's section. She writes love songs to a girl named Elizabeth. So her section is just 8 love songs to this girl that she's in love with, but is straight. And it's brilliant, and I loved it. Some of the other characters in this book that I really liked are Tyler's section. His girlfriend's in love with Holden Caulfield and is driving him crazy. Gail section, she's all talking about the gospel. It's really interesting collection of stories that I absolutely always like recommend to people, and just to go into it knowing it's going to be multiple perspective and that each one's going to be a little bit different. One section just suburban myths, and it's just an interesting writing thing that David Levithan did. But the thing I love about this book the most is that it just kind of the realm of possibility. It talks about, it's really kind of showing you like it kind of gives you hope that anything's possible. I think that's what I felt like, at least when I read it, and that's why I recommend the book so much. So this is going to be the last book of this list. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you should like this video, and if you did, you definitely should subscribe to my channel. If you're not subscribed to my channel, because I'm always talking about queer lit, I'm reading queer lit all the time. Like, seriously, all the time. It's my favorite genre. If you can call it a genre, I'm going to call it a genre. My favorite genre is queer literature. So, yeah, definitely subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed to my channel. If you already are, then you guys should know I'm going to be having more of my queer movie videos coming out. Like, I did one so far, and I'm going to have like a bunch of them come out in the next month, hopefully, so I can get them out of the way and get my top 50 queer movies done. And that's going to be it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, I hope you guys have a wonderful morning, evening, night, day, whatever you're watching this. I hope you're having a good time. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.